Brittney Griner home. Today, a Moscow regional court denied Griner's appeal to overturn her 9-year prison sentence. Experts say that was expected. Griner, who turned 32 last Tuesday, has now been in Russian custody since she was arrested February 17th for bringing cannabis oil into the country while trying to return to a Russian club team. Yesterday, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver talked about the NBA's role in trying to get Griner back to the U.S. while speaking with Malika Andrews on NBA Today. Take a listen.
We have been, very public about our belief that she's deserves to be released at this point, even to the extent that she was convicted of a minor crime, that any punishment at this point is dramatically disproportionate. There should be mercy, of course, for anyone in her position. And we've had direct conversations with the White House, with the State Department. You heard opening night, Steph Curry, spoke out about her incarceration. I'll be quite honest, we're doing everything we know available to us at this point, which is to continue to raise her profile and have direct conversations with the U.S. government at all levels. But beyond that, it's frustrating for everyone. It's enormously frustrating for her family. I'm not sure what else we could be doing right now.
Extremely difficult to see those images of her incarcerated. We now welcome in special correspondent, friend of the show, Angela Rye. Angela has been covering this story from the very beginning and is in contact with Griner's family. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, but I want to get right to it and give this story as much time as we can. What's your reaction to today's ruling?
Well, sadly, it's not surprising. We were well understood that Russia's criminal justice system is vastly different from the United States justice system. And so it was always going to be an uphill battle for Brittney to win an appeal. At best, her defense attorneys hoped that they would reduce the sentence. And unfortunately, the reduction was that they would give her time served for the pretrial detention, which means that her sentence will now be around the 8-year mark. I think the other thing that's really unfortunate is they are not really sure when she would be transferred to a penal colony. There are 35 penal colonies in Russia, all of them with very disparate conditions and environments that are some more abusive than others. We do not want to see Brittney have to go to a penal colony. And so now what this means is now that Russia's justice system has done what it's going to do, of course, there may be grounds for additional appeals. That's up to her legal defense team. We need the Biden administration at this point to act.
When you say you need them to act, what specifically do you need them to do that they haven't done yet?
It's a great question, Stephen A. They've done a lot. They've given an offer to Russia. Russia returned and countered with something they knew wasn't feasible. Russia offered up someone in a German prison to the United States in exchange for Brittney. There has been speculation that the United States requested that Europe arrest 2 Russian citizens, one in Italy and one, I can't remember, Italy and Germany. I said Germany about the person they requested. But there was another Russian national who was arrested in Germany. That pressure could potentially help Brittney be returned home, but we do not know. So what they could do is go back to Russia through the channels, the international channels they use, and request for Brittney to be returned home. They're also tying to her Paul Whelan. We don't want anyone to be held hostage, any United States citizen to be held hostage overseas anywhere, to be wrongfully detained anywhere. So, of course, even Brittney's team and family is supportive of Paul Whelan being returned. But what could be done is ensuring that this story doesn't disappear, that when we get discouraged and when we feel hopeless, that we don't meet Brittney in that and get stuck and say, you know what, we give up. It is on the media, it is on the administration, it is on every United States citizen to apply pressure to ensure that she's returned home. For the naysayers who say, well, she broke the law and she knew better. This is someone who's dedicated a large part of her life to Russia's sports. We're talking about 0.04 grams of medicinal cannabis. It is clear, just as Adam Silver just stated, that she has served the time. It's time to bring Brittney back home.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, let's ignore them damn idiots who say such a thing about her, talking about she violated the laws. I don't want to hear that crap from them, but I will ask this question. Russia and the punishment they handed down for this quote-unquote crime, is it consistent with what they normally do to people that find themselves in this position with their government? Can you answer that question?
Absolutely. It is inconsistent. It is harsher for Brittany and Stephen A. There's no surprises here either. Let's remember that Brittany was detained on February 17th, which was exactly 1 week before the Ukrainian invasion. We knew
Hmm.
from the very beginning, even when the administration wasn't ready to say that Brittany was a political prisoner being held and wrongfully detained because of the timing of this arrest. So it's very clear that this has more to do with Russia's frustration with the United States
Mm.
and its support of Ukraine than it does with Brittany's actual crime. That's the thing.
So, with that being said, it's a safe bet in your estimation. I'm surmising here. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's a safe bet that if there wasn't a war going on with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that this likely would not be happening. Is that the belief that everybody has?
Well, here's the other thing, Stephen A. I don't know how much you know about Vladimir Putin, but let's just say that this is someone who doesn't play fair. If at
Know
any
that.
time, right? So we also have to take into consideration what Brittany was wearing at the airport that day. It was a Black Lives Matter hoodie. Let's also take into consideration this is someone who is engaged in activism around protecting the interests of Black lives and reproductive justice. Let's also take into consideration that this is an LGBTQIA woman who then that's frowned upon in Russia. It is frowned upon and punished in Russia. So there are a number of layers to this that also could demonstrate why Vladimir Putin wouldn't play fair with her. There was another young woman who was 18 years old who had
Hmm.
10 times the amount of marijuana
Hmm.
that Brittany did several years ago, and she was detained for 4 months and sent back to the United States. So there are so many factors at play here. And I think the other thing that we can't take lightly is that midterm elections are November 8th, and we could
Yes.
rest assured that Vladimir Putin does not want to give the Biden administration or Joe Biden this win before then.
I ask a very uncomfortable question, but it needs to be asked, especially to somebody like you, because you're one of the people qualified to answer this. One of the things that people have had reservations about is Vladimir Putin. This is who we're dealing with, former member of the KGB, all right, known in a lot of circles as not necessarily being pro-America. I'm being kind, obviously. Considering those things that we've heard about him, combined with the fact that there is a war going on in Ukraine with the Russian invasion, what do you say to folks that say, actually, the more noise you bring to this issue, the more gung-ho or the more dogged they're going to be in holding on to her because we're talking about Vladimir Putin? The fact is that her better chances are if the noise died down. How do you answer that assertion? Because they're talking about Vladimir Putin, obviously, when they're bringing that up. What do you say to that?
I would say to them that we tried silence at the beginning at the request of this government and it didn't work. That's what I would say. The answer is very simple. And I would also say to check your bias because if it was an athlete who did not look like Brittany, who played in a male league and they were just as much of a superstar, there's no way we would be quiet. There is not a chance that we would be silent. And so that's what I would tell folks to one, check their bias, and two, we already tried that. That didn't work. So now we need to make as much noise as possible. If this was our child, if this was our friend, if this was our mother, our father, we need to make that kind of noise. Treat this woman like this is your family. Treat this woman like she is the American patriot she is, who won Olympic gold medals for this country, a WNBA all-star and champion. Treat her like she deserves to be treated. And to quote somebody named Birdman, put some respect on her name and act accordingly.
Angela, I know you've been in touch with her family. How are they dealing with this right now?
Just for clarity, I've been in touch with Sherelle. I've not had the privilege of meeting the rest of her family and shamefully never met Brittany. But in talking to Sherelle, I can say that her spirits are high. That is a strong sister. She is fighting every single day. She worked through studying for the bar exam, right? Fighting for Brittany. And I'm so overwhelmed by her courage. I'm so overwhelmed by her strength. She is someone who, just from interviewing her, I just like took such a liking to Sherelle. And I will continue to fight with them and for them for justice, because she's dedicating her life to this in spite of Brittney. Just her first trial run was with her own spouse. And so I can just tell you, I know that she's going to keep hoping. This is difficult. They are concerned, as we all should be, for Brittney's mental health. She's concerned about what's next if she does have to get moved to a penal colony. We need to be really aware of that and lift her up in prayer if you pray. Send her good vibes if you do that. And please, most of all, we have to remember to continue to use our voices and fight for justice as if this was one of our own family members.
And Sherelle is Brittney Griner's wife, if anybody wasn't aware of that. Angela, appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
It's a heartbreaking story. It really, really is.
Coming up next, Jay Williams and Brian Windhorst join the show to dive into where the Lakers should go from here after a